Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're grappling with a concept that's, well, it's constantly in the news, shapes geopolitics, and impacts our daily lives: energy security.
Hmm.
For decades, it's been this critical but often kind of elusive goal for nations everywhere. How do you quantify something so vital, so multifaceted?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's the challenge our source material really tackles head on.
Yeah, we're looking at a comprehensive, pretty groundbreaking piece of research titled Global Energy Security Index and its application on national level.
Indeed. And this isn't, just as another report. It's a meticulously crafted numerical method designed to objectively evaluate energy security.
Right.
And it tries to bridge these crucial gaps in how we've historically understood and measured it.
So it's aiming for objectivity.
Yes, its core aim is to provide a globally comprehensive tool, but one that's still useful on a national level for policymakers, businesses, and frankly, for all of us.
And what makes this particular deep dive so compelling, I think, is how the research approaches energy security. It breaks down this massive concept into an incredible 15 dimensions.
15. That's a lot.
It is. And those are then measured across 50 parameters and, get this, 76 individual indicators.
Wow.
That's a huge leap in detail, isn't it? It lets us see not just what a country's energy security status is, but really dig into the complex why behind it, like an X-ray, you could say, of a nation's energy health.
That's a good way to put it.
So let's unpack this then. Energy security, it's been a universal concern since, well, ancient times, right? Often shaping national policies, international relationships.
Absolutely.
But why has it become such an acutely critical topic, particularly in our 21st century?
Well, what's fascinating here, and this study really highlights it, is that energy isn't just a commodity. It's fundamentally the engine for economic growth.
The engine.
Yeah, deeply linked to a nation's entire economy, its societal fabric. It touches every aspect of modern life, industry, healthcare, just individual convenience, pretty much. Enhancing energy security. In many ways, it's a fundamental societal goal, almost like you could compare it to Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, without that basic energy security, those higher level needs, freedom of choice, self-actualization, national flourishing, they're significantly compromised. It's foundational.
That Maslow analogy is quite powerful. So this isn't just about keeping the lights on.
Not at all.
It's about foundational human well-being and national sovereignty, too.
Exactly. Which, if it's that important, it raises the question.
Why haven't we had a truly objective, universally accepted way to measure it until now? What were the big gaps this research is trying to fill?
That's a really important question, and it's precisely what the authors addressed. You see, previous attempts to measure energy security, they often fell short.
How so?
Well, sometimes they lacked enough dimensions, meaning they only looked at a piece of the puzzle.
Right, incomplete.
Or they lack transparency in their methodology, which makes it hard to really trust the results.
Yeah.
And many were also limited in data or geographical application, so making global comparisons was tricky.
Okay.
So this study directly confronts those shortcomings. It offers a comprehensive, transparent, and globally applicable framework. It moves beyond those simplified concepts, evaluating all 15 dimensions together for the first time.
Together, that's key.
Yes, it gives us a much higher resolution for national-level analysis. It's a holistic view, not just a snapshot.
All right, so 15 dimensions, 50 parameters, 76 indicators. That sounds incredibly thorough, almost daunting. But how do they actually build this global energy security index? How do you take such diverse information and turn it into a single comparable score?
Right, well, the core method involves assigning those parameters and indicators to each dimension. And then there's a crucial step, normalizing and standardizing the values to a percentage.
Normalizing, okay, so like making different things comparable.
Exactly. Imagine trying to compare, say, a country's oil production in barrels with its solar output in gigawatts, or its energy policy effectiveness with its cybersecurity readiness.
Yeah, apples and oranges.
Totally. So to make sense of it all, the researchers normalize the data. They essentially convert everything into a common score, like percentage from 0 to 100. So you're comparing apples to apples no matter how different the original fruit was.
Got it.
And the logic is, if an indicator positively affects energy security, its value is directly used. If it has a negative impact, well, that value is subtracted from 100%.
Simple enough in principle.
Right. Now, currently, all parameters and dimensions are given equal weights. The authors acknowledge this is a limitation, due to a lack of data for individual weighting, but they do highlight it as an area for future research.
Okay, Equal weighting for now. That's important to note. And this is where the real data science comes in, isn't it? What kind of actual data, what specific criteria are used for these indicators, and how do they handle situations where direct data might be scarce?
Good questions. They draw data from trusted international sources. The World Bank, IEA, places like that, ensuring indicator values are available for most countries. And when direct data are scarce, which happens, they skillfully use close proxies.
Proxies, like what?
Well, the normalization process itself, often a max-min approach or an optimal worst relationship, that allows for the global comparison. But take the availability dimension that's about a country's access to energy resources.
Right.
They consider not just total available fossil fuel and potential renewables, but also factors like population. And here's a subtle but interesting one. Even the number of airports.
Airports. As a proxy for energy availability, that's an interesting jump for me.
It is, isn't it? But if you think about it, it's not just about air travel itself. It's used as a proxy for a country's overall logistical and transport infrastructure.
Ah, okay. Infrastructure.
Yeah, a robust network of airports and the associated infrastructure suggests a greater capacity to distribute energy resources throughout the country, or, to mobilize resources quickly in a crisis. It speaks to that underlying national capacity to move things, including fuel, energy components.
That makes a lot more sense when you put it that way. Okay. So, after all this meticulous calculation, normalization, proxies, what does it all mean for countries around the world? Who's doing well and who's struggling, according to the study's initial broad strokes?
Well, overall, the findings of this study show a pretty clear picture. Germany and the United States perform best in overall energy security. They consistently rank at the top.
Okay, Germany and the U.S.
On the other end of the spectrum, countries like the Central African Republic and Turkmenistan are at the lowest end. And generally, developed countries tend to have higher energy security than emerging or developing ones.
Which kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it highlights the strong influence of developmental status, the infrastructure that comes with it.
That general trend does make intuitive sense. But were there any surprising outliers? Or cases that truly challenge that initial assumption about developed countries always leading? Or maybe where a country's obvious strengths, like huge reserves, don't guarantee top performance?
Oh, absolutely. And this is where it gets really interesting. What's truly striking is that the research pretty much demolishes the idea of a silver bullet for energy security.
No single answer.
Exactly. This study found that neighboring countries don't necessarily have the same levels. They cite Finland versus Russia, or the United States versus Cuba, vastly different energy security profiles despite their proximity.
Huh. Geography isn't destiny, then.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
And countries affected by wars or natural disasters like Somalia and Afghanistan, well, they predictably show lower performance. But here's a crucial aha moment, I think, that really challenges common assumptions. No single feature of a country determines its energy security. A country could have the largest land area, like Russia,
Yep.
or the highest population, like China, or even the highest GDP per capita, like Qatar. Yet those individual strengths alone don't guarantee the best energy security.
Wow. So having lots of oil or gas isn't enough?
It's not the whole story. It's the intricate, aggregated mix of many variables across all 15 dimensions that truly defines a nation's resilience and standing.
That really flips a common assumption on its head. It's not about one big asset, but a symphony, maybe, of many factors.
That's a good way to put it, a symphony.
Okay, let's zoom in on a few of those dimensions then, and see some specific country examples that illustrate these nuances. Starting with availability. You mentioned the U.S. and Brazil ranking high. Is that simply due to their sheer natural resources?
Largely, yes. The U.S. and Brazil rank highest in availability because they have abundant fossil fuel resources, significant renewable potential, large internal demand, and, importantly, easy access to global markets. Conversely, many European countries fare poorly in this specific dimension because they have a comparative lack of their own indigenous resources. That makes them reliant on imports.
So they might have the infrastructure, maybe the tech, but not the raw materials readily available within their borders.
Precisely. Which leads nicely into the next point. Beyond just having the energy, how diverse are a nation's energy sources? That brings us to the diversity dimension, which measures a crucial aspect of resilience, doesn't it? It really does. In diversity, Finland, Bulgaria, and Sweden lead. They expertly balance their energy system elements, a mix of fossil fuels, nuclear, renewables.
A balanced portfolio.
Exactly. This broad portfolio makes them less vulnerable to disruptions in any single source. But then you look at countries with what some call a resource curse, or maybe just a heavy dependence on one single element, like Chad or Lesotho. They rank low because their energy mix is dangerously narrow.
Makes them vulnerable.
Well,
Okay. And cost. That's always a fascinating one, isn't it? It's not just about the price of fuel at the pump, but the economic impact of energy disruption.
I saw Kyrgyzstan leads here. Why might that be? That seems counterintuitive.
It does seem a bit surprising at first glance. Kyrgyzstan's high ranking in cost is quite interesting. It's likely due to a combination of factors: their relatively simple economy, less industrialization perhaps,
Okay.
and a population that relies more on traditional lifestyles. So the income loss from an energy disruption might be comparatively minimal on a national scale.
Ah, so less economic machinery to grind to a halt.
Kind of.
Right.
Contrast that with the US and China. Despite their overall high rankings, they actually struggle in the cost dimension because their massive, complex economies are incredibly sensitive to energy price fluctuations and disruption.
Right, bigger impact.
But Germany, interestingly, does surprisingly well in cost, partly thanks, the study suggests, to its widespread renewable energy infrastructure, which helps stabilize long-term prices and reduce reliance on volatile global fossil fuel markets. That's a great illustration of how different national contexts really impact these scores. Now let's talk about the environment dimension. We often think of developed nations leading here, maybe stricter regulations, but the study shows something surprising, doesn't it?
It truly does. In the environment dimension, you might be surprised to learn that many African and Latin American countries like Gabon, Nigeria, Costa Rica, they actually perform better than some highly developed nations.
Really? Why is that?
Well, it's often attributed to simpler, less industrialized lifestyles, resulting in significantly lower per capita energy consumption, and thus lower ecological footprints overall.
So lower consumption equals better environmental score in this context.
In this specific dimension, yes. Conversely, fossil fuel-dependent countries, especially those with autocratic policies and high corruption, like Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan, they show poor environmental performance.
Ah, corruption linkage.
Yeah, this highlights how corruption can prioritize, elite benefits and short-term resource extraction over environmental well-being and sustainable practices.
That's a crucial link. Okay, it really seems there are many different, sometimes unexpected paths to strong or weak energy security. This whole deep dive is proving that. What about literacy? How does a country's education level or maybe energy awareness factor in?
The literacy dimension here is fascinating. It's not just about general education levels, it's more about a nation's human capital for energy.
Human capital for energy.
Yeah. So the US and Germany, for instance, rank high. That's due to extensive information availability, robust scientific publications, a highly skilled workforce in energy-related fields.
Makes sense.
But this study shows that a country like Zimbabwe achieves a high score through significant national expenditure, specifically on energy education and public awareness.
So direct investment pays off there.
Exactly. It proves that dedicated investment can make a substantial difference. It's about cultivating that knowledge base, the public understanding that's crucial for long-term energy resilience and innovation.
So putting it all together then, what does the study tell us about the overall top performers like Germany and the US? What are their sort of secret ingredients according to this index?
Well, this study really underscores that it's a strategic blend of strengths. It's not just one thing. Take Germany, the top overall performer.
Number one.
Its strength lies especially in resilience, its ability to bounce back from disruptions in policy, its advanced political systems to manage energy transitions.
So strong governance and adaptability.
Precisely. This strong adaptive capacity and forward-thinking governance compensate for its relatively poor performance in availability and location, given its lack of indigenous resources and its geographical
Wait.
position.
Right, it plays to its strengths. And the US second place.
The U.S., ranked second, also excels in resilience and policy.
Mm.
And interestingly, cybersecurity, showing robust protection for its digital energy infrastructure.
That's increasingly important.
Absolutely. However, the U.S. has a lower rank in the time frame dimension. That's largely due to older power plants and arguably a longer, more complex path to achieve 100% renewable electricity compared to some others.
Okay, different strengths and weaknesses, even at the very top. And then there are countries like Turkmenistan, ranked lowest overall, despite having significant natural gas reserves. This study points out it has high scores in cost and health. So what pulls it down so dramatically?
Yeah, that's a key example, and it raises an important point about the interconnectedness of these dimensions. Turkmenistan's totalitarian regime severely impacts its policy dimension.
Ah, the governance factor again.
Exactly. It limits transparency, discourages innovation, creates an opaque regulatory environment. This single factor policy pulls down its overall energy security significantly. It really illustrates how political governance is a fundamental pillar, regardless of resource wealth.
That's stark.
It is, and this study's analysis of countries across the spectrum, from high performers like Germany and the US to mid-range countries like China.
How does China fare?
China's interesting. Strong in health, tech and efficiency, cybersecurity. These help mitigate natural factors like its location and availability challenges. Then you have Jordan, low availability and literacy, but surprisingly high health and military scores, possibly a strategic trade-off for scarce resources.
Intriguing trade-offs.
And then to those at the lowest end, like the Central African Republic, which interestingly has high employment opportunity noted in its energy sector, but very low diversity in Turkmenistan. It just clearly shows there is no single recipe for energy security.
No one size fits all.
Jeff on it.
So, while this research is clearly a monumental effort providing this incredible detailed X-ray of global energy security, are there any limitations? Things that researchers themselves are transparent about?
Yes, absolutely. And they're very good about being transparent. Key limitations include the current use of equal weighting for all parameters and dimensions.
We touched on that.
Right. It might not perfectly reflect real-world priorities or the specific importance a nation might place on certain aspects over others. The study is also inherently a snapshot. It reflects a specific time period.
Static.
Yes. Future projections of indicators would require further research. Additionally, some parameters are necessarily measured by proxy indicators just due to data complexity or sometimes simple unavailability for certain countries.
Data gaps are always a challenge.
They are. However, they do note that the average of simulated weights when they tested different weighting scenarios is actually similar to the equal weights they used. So that provides some validation for their current approach. It's a dynamic field, and this is a really powerful starting point, but it's not the final word.
Understood. A complex picture, and the methodology reflects that, including its current limits. So let's bring it home. What does this all mean for you, our listener, and maybe for countries trying to navigate this complex, ever-shifting world of energy?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, I think this study delivers a powerful, quite nuanced message. There isn't one universal path. There's no simple checklist for achieving energy security.
Right.
Each nation really needs to identify its own unique weaknesses and strengths across these 15 critical dimensions. They need to truly learn from other successes in specific areas, sure, but ultimately implement tailored strategies.
Tailored strategies.
Yeah. It's about a directed, intelligent evolution of policy and infrastructure, not a one-size-fits-all solution copied from somewhere else.
That's a really profound takeaway, I think. It challenges us, maybe you listening, to think beyond just simple resource availability. Do we have oil or not? And instead, consider this intricate web of policy, technology, environment, even public understanding and governance. The journey to enhanced energy security isn't just about securing fuel barrels or cubic meters of gas. It's about building resilient, adaptable, and informed societies that can navigate the complexities of the 21st century.
Well said.
So for you, the curious learner, maybe consider, how might your own country's unique features, its geography, its economy, its politics, play into this multifaceted index, and what small steps, maybe even at a local level, could make a big difference in the grand scheme of energy resilience?
That's a critical thought to ponder, for sure. It really brings it down to the ground level.
It does. And with that, we've completed our deep dive into the Global Energy Security Index and its application on national level.
Thank you for joining us.